Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Gonna get medieval on you here, a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons video. Do you remember many years ago, I did a video about iron rations, and I actually dissected what could they have been, what kind of food would have been in there, pemmican, salted fish, that kind of thing. Then I actually followed that up by doing salted fish per se, because I don't think I included that in the original iron pack, the carrying device that may have been used. Now, as a kid, I always wondered, what are iron rations? And we're going to make another type, another variation on what might have also been called iron rations. Now, when I was making that first video, I always thought, well, what does the iron refer to? Like, are you eating iron? And we're kind of going to be doing that in this video. So, but before I get to that, with the original, with Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax was a big follower of kind of the Napoleonic era, little tin soldier, battlefront things, and they carried around their meals in metal tins, and they peeled the lid off, and that may have been where the iron ration, the name, the iron part of iron rations came from. And that was sort of the premise of my first video. I put it in a little iron tin, and I had all kinds of interesting food, parched wheat, all that kind of stuff, dried mangoes. As part of that, I did say this is just strictly Dungeons and Dragons fictional stuff, but it has its basis in reality. What we're doing today is another kind of iron rations, maybe, and it's also based in historical information. I won't say it's true, a lot of it's rumor. We're going to make ship's biscuits. Now, these are essentially little, like, they almost look like this. They're like dry biscuits, or cookies almost in a way. Very, very rough, hard to go down, but they were kept in ship's hulls because they would last for like a year if properly prepared originally. And they're super easy to make. We're going to make them here. Got all the ingredients, all three. Why the iron element, though? I think, so one of the things we're going to use is whole wheat flour and water and salt. I mean, it's a really, really simple recipe. We just got to bake it for a long time. Now, what I think might be the origin of why these might have been called iron rations, and a few people commenting on my original video also mentioned this. If you are on an extended voyage on the sea and you have a barrel full of flour, and that flour is starting to get a little low in the container, I wouldn't have put it past any ship cook who might have thought, we need to maybe bulk up this flour with something. And he may have actually thrown a little bit of sawdust in there. There's actually a few people talking about how some of our food items today have got a little bit of extra material in them to bulk them up a bit. Like sawdust, which is a little bit frightening. However, we're just going to talk historical stuff here. I suspect in the whole wheat flour of yesteryear, they may have actually said, well, we've got all this wood around, why don't we just like grate off a bit of our, maybe they had some chunks of sawdust from somebody, doing some ship maintenance, and put that into the flour just to bulk it up a little bit. And maybe, because you're talking about ship's planks and floorboards and that, I bet the odd bit of a nail might have ended up in the sawdust that was added to the flour, and I wouldn't put it past the odd pirate captain or seaman to have bitten into his ship's biscuit only to find a bit of a nail in there. Hence, iron rations. Again, I don't know that that's true, but this is something a lot of people have commented on for the original iron ration video. Why don't you make ship's biscuits, or hardtack? Hardtack is apparently a newer name, 19th century terminology for sort of what we're making. So, gonna make some ship's biscuits here. I'll move the camera in a second. Essentially, we take some, this is actually a recipe that James Townsend and Son, their channel is now just called Townsend's. They have been big inspiration for me for several of these historical food videos. The pemmican that I made originally for the iron rations video, that was from Townsend's original recipe that they had on their YouTube channel. They're an awesome channel, by the way. Highly recommend you check them out. They're a little more kind of 18th century, 17th century colonial America kind of slant to things, but they talked about ship's biscuits, so I thought, well, let's just follow their recipe. So basically, we've got a pound of whole wheat flour. We're going to put in some salt. We got in a nice little Wizard's container here for the salt, and water, and we just mix it up until we get a stiff kind of a dough. So, without further ado, let's make those, and then we'll just bake them for a long time. Alright, so what I've got in here is a pound of the whole wheat flour. Now in James Townsend and Son's video, Townsend's video, he does 2 pounds, but I figure I'm only going to make like 4 of these biscuits, so half the quantity of what he did. He throws in quite a lot of salt, so I'm going to say that looks ballpark about half the quantity he put in. He kind of just eyeballed it. He didn't put any exact numbers, but I'm imagining, since this is our only flavor, yeah, what the heck, I'll throw the whole container in there, mix it up, and then we just add water until it becomes a good stiff dough. So again, it's kind of being eyeballed here. Let's put in that much to start. No actual quantities here, so just like the original video. That's pretty close. Yeah, I can practically make a ball out of that, so I think that's what he had as well in his video. Yeah, I'm going to move it over to a cutting board here, just a sec. And now I need to just knead this. I'm sure any bakers watching are probably yelling at me that my kneading technique is terrible. I apologize. I am by no means a cook or any way good with food, but you know what? This seems like it's coming together. It's a nice stodgy ball of dough. I think we pretty much got it. It's holding its shape pretty well, so for a complete amateur kneading job, I think I did okay with that. So we're going to bake these. John had mentioned 300 to 350, but for a long time, he said on a medium kind of a cook. So rather than, I know everything gets cooked at 350, I'm actually going to bump this down to 300. Since it's going to sit there for about 3 hours, might as well have it on a long, slow, steady cook. And in fact, I think they're actually going to be cooked twice. But let's at least get this preheated to begin with. While the oven is preheating, let's cut this thing up into 4 biscuit type shapes. So we'll get out our little handy dandy cutter here and just separate these guys. And I think that looks roughly right. And we'll just flatten them out. Get the old medieval rolling pin. It's not really, but whatever. And actually, you know what? John just flattened these by hand, made them into roughly the size that he figured they would be. You know what? His ended up still a little bit thicker than normal, so I am going to just flatten them out a bit. Maybe that's a bit too big. What do you think? That looks a bit big. Let's rip a bit off. And we'll just reform. Because it should only be the size of like a cookie or like a really large kind of a treat. Let's see here. So let's flatten that in my hands. Yeah, now let's give that a flattening. How does that look? It's still a bit too thick for my liking, but you know what? I think we'll go with that. Oven is heated up, and here are my ship's biscuits. They definitely came out in different sizes. Here's the first one. So I've actually kind of tried to make them more cookie size, but boy, that was tough. Anyway, here's the last one, so we'll just set him in there. John does mention these aren't going to rise or anything, so you don't really need to worry about them being positioned too much. Last step before they go in is they're going to need some holes poked in them just to make sure they don't over steam. We need to make sure these are going to be very, very dry inside. So just give them all a good proper ventilation. And this one especially, because he's definitely in need of... He's a little bit too big. I have a feeling that one's not going to really work. I think. Yeah, and we're actually going to give these a double baking. So 3 hours at 300, followed by maybe another 3 hours. I'm going to see what they look like. If they need it, then I will decide based on that. Okay, I think that's enough holes. We'll soon find out. So, into the oven they go for a very long cook. 3 hours. See you guys later. Alright, here we are 3 hours later. Let's have a look. What do we got here? Oh! Wow. Those are looking very interesting. Yeah. They're not too burned or anything. So, let's just take them out and carefully set them here. Pardon the camera thing there. So, yeah, they're fairly brown on the underside. Very brown on the underside. I don't know. I'll give that some thought. But for now, let's let them dry out. Really, really get baked. And I will give that whole second... okay, that's what it looks like. I'll give that whole second bake consideration. It sort of depends. They've got that that feeling of being like biscuits. Even my big guy here, that one needs probably a bit of time. But there we go. Okay, so yeah, let's see. I may or may not give that a second bake, but I'm definitely going to let these things cool down. They look like oatmeal cookies, really. I don't even see any evidence of those holes that I punched in them. Alright, well, let's let them cool down and I will consider a second bake. Right, well, here we are in the tavern. I've got my other version of iron rations standing by. I'm going to try these things out. Didn't decide to go for the second bake because they are really hard, like a rock. I think if you wanted these to last like a year, and some ship's biscuits have been known to do that, they do recommend, or at least Townsend has said, they would then give them a second bake to completely dry them out. But I figure this is not actually needed for longevity for me. I just want to taste what it's like. So if there's a fraction of moisture left in here, I think I'll be okay. Speaking of moisture, I've got my grog standing by because I think this is going to be eating a rock or something. It does remind me that my dungeon master always told me iron rations are okay for surviving on, but you're sure as heck not going to choose to eat these, and this seems to be a much better contender for that than the stuff that was in the iron box. That was actually very pleasant. It even had chocolate in it. This is going to be like eating planks of cement, so here we go. I'm going to have some iron rations, aka ship's biscuits. I hope it'll actually break off when I chew on it. Or I'm about to lose a tooth. Let's see what we got. Well, it's not even breaking. Hang on. There we go. Wow, that is hard. That is dry. Wow. I'll hold off on the grog for a second because I gotta give this its proper shake. But man, oh man, that is really dry. However, actually rather tasty. It has a very good flavor. I'm really surprised. It's just flour and salt, but it has a really nice. It's like those crisp breads you can buy, but like a million times more dense. But it's that flavor. Take the crisp bread kind of crackery kind of flavoring and make it like chewing on a rock. That's what you've got with these Chips Biscuits. Wow, wow. Okay, let me see if I can get another one. I'm worried I'm going to lose a tooth, though. Oh. Oh, man. How the heck did they eat this? Good Lord. Yeah, it's it's kind of like a layered thing inside. Can I get another one? Maybe once I get it started. Nope, maybe not. That's a lot of work just to get those 2 bites off there. I've got a whole plate of them to enjoy now. Yum. But I can see this would actually be something you could survive on. It tastes really good. I mean, it's really hard. I'm glad I didn't double bake them. Wow. But yeah, they have a very good flavor to them and kind of a nice texture. Once you get them in your mouth with a bit of moisture, let's have a grog. Once you get a bit of moisture around them, cheers. You know, they kind of expand a bit. It's like in Lord of the Rings, you got that, what is it, Lembeth bread, whatever that bread is, the elves you take a little bite off it, and it expands and fills you up for a week or a day or whatever. I can kind of see this is sort of related to that. It's, you know, it would be easy to store. Apparently these things would last like a year if properly prepared. I mean, I'm just doing an amateur job as per my rolling pin skills and my lack of kneading, but whatever. But yeah, I could see these on a long trip. I mean, I've got I've got modern dentistry on my back to keep me able to bite into these. Some old like sea dog who's, you know, not got any of those benefits must have had a heck of a time. Probably lost a tooth on some of this stuff, but now that I've actually got it started, they're good. They're good. But, oh man, are they dry and rough on the teeth. Cheers again. Okay, well, there we go. There's Chips Biscuits, the other iron rations, maybe? I don't know. I mean, I think the stuff that I did in my first video where I've got the little metal container holding the food is a more realistic or a better representation of what iron rations really were. But I just thought, hey, when everybody commented on Chips Biscuits, man, that's the other kind of iron rations, I thought, well, we got to do a video about that. Now I've got them. I guess these will be fun at parties. Anyway, that's enough of that. Until next time, I'll see you down the rabbit hole.